In this video, we're going to be talking about solving absolute value inequalities. And there are basically two formulas that we need to use. The absolute value of ax plus b is greater than c means to write your inequalities like this. Ax plus b is less than negative c, or ax plus b is greater than c. That's a compound inequality that you've seen before. The absolute value of ax plus b is less than c means negative c is less than ax plus b, which is less than c. Again, another compound inequality that you've seen. So let's take a look at this. Solve each inequality and graph the solutions. Well, just like before, what we need to do is get the absolute value symbols alone. Value symbols alone. Okay, so what we're going to do is subtract 2 from each side. So the absolute value of x is greater than 5. Okay? Now, because you've got a greater than symbol, you're going to use your first formula. Whatever is in absolute value symbols, which is in this case is just x, has to be greater than c, means, and c is 5, means that what's in the absolute value symbols has to be less than negative 5. I'm just following this formula. Or what's inside the absolute value symbols, which was x, has to be greater than positive 5. Now there is nothing left for us to solve. Okay, this is it. Now, let's use this next one. We have the absolute value of x minus 12 is greater than or equal to negative 8. Again, first thing we have to do is get the absolute value symbol alone. So we're going to add 12 to each side. So we have the absolute value of x, 12's cancel, is greater than or equal to 4. So we go back and look at our equations, or at our inequalities. If you have a greater than symbol, you're going to use the first one, which I will write down here next to it. You're going to use ax plus b is less than negative c, or ax plus b is greater than c. Just because you've got a greater than symbol, that's the one you choose. Look at the top of your paper, you'll see it in your outline. Now, let's go ahead and set that up. So that means you take what's in the absolute value symbols, which is x, set it less than or equal to, in this case, because we've got a line, to the negative version of the number, which is 4, or then set what's in absolute value symbols greater than, in this case, greater than or equal to, the positive version of the number. And there is your solution. You don't have anything to solve in this case. Let's move on. So you've always got to go back to your formulas. Absolute value of x minus 5 is less than negative 4. Again, we want to get the absolute value symbols alone. So we're going to add 5 to each side. So you have the absolute value of x is less than 1. Okay, now go back and look at your formulas. Remember, the one now with a less than in it, absolute value of ax plus b is less than c, means, I'm going to write this right down here for you, negative c is less than ax plus b is less than c. That was the top of the first page. Since this has a less than in it, we're going to use this formula. So that means we're going to put what's in absolute value symbols right in the middle. That's just x. Put down your less than symbols. On the ends, you put the negative version of the number and the positive version of the number. And that's it. Oh, I think we forgot to graph these too. So let's go ahead and go back and graph those. We'll graph this one, which we know how to do. Negative 1, positive 1. We have our open dots, and we connect them. Again, just a compound inequality. I'm going to go back to the other two as well and graph those. This first one, we had x is less than negative 5 and x greater than 5. So there we have it. And the second one, we just graph both inequalities on the same line. You've done this many times before. We have closed dots on these, an arrow going to the right, and an arrow going to the left. Okay, so now we're ready to move on. Let's go to the next one. We have the absolute value of x plus 4 minus 1.5 is less than 3.5. Get the absolute value symbols alone by adding 1.5 to each side. The 1.5's cancel. I have the absolute value of x plus 4 is less than 5. Now, let's think about which formula has the less than in it. Well, it's this one. I'll move this out of the way. The one that says absolute value of ax plus b is less than c means negative c is less than ax plus b, which is less than positive c. Okay, so we're going to take x plus 4 and put it right in place of ax plus b. Then we're going to put the negative version of the number, which is 5 on the end, negative 5, and then the positive version, positive 5, on the right side. Now you have a compound inequality to solve. You want to get x alone, just like we've done before. Remember, you've got 3 parts to this, so we're going to draw a line down through. We want to get x alone, so we subtract 4 from each side. We have negative 9 is less than, the 4's cancel, negative 9 is less than x, which is less than 1. Now, we're going to graph that. I don't want to forget it this time. So we have negative 9 and 1. We have open dots on both, and we connect them. Next, we have absolute value of x plus 2 is greater than 7. Subtract 2 from each side to get the absolute value symbols alone. We have the absolute value of x is now greater than 5. Now, which formula deals with greater than? Well, we'll write it down. Ax, it's from your previous page. Ax plus b is greater than c means ax plus b is less than negative c, or ax plus b is greater than positive c. So we're going to put x in place of ax plus b because that's in our absolute value symbols. We'll put in our less than, and then the negative 5. Then the or goes in between. And then in the other problem, put in the greater than, and c is positive 5. In this case, there's nothing to solve. So we have negative 5 on the left, positive 5 on the right, open dots, and the arrows go in opposite directions. Last problem. We want to get the absolute value symbols alone, so you add 5 to each side. So you have the absolute value of x plus 3. 5's cancel, so it's greater than 14. Well, we need to make sure we're using the right formula, which is the same as we did last time. Ax plus b is greater than c. We're looking for that greater symbol. It was right there. Means ax plus b is less than negative c, or ax plus b is greater than positive c. So in place of ax plus b now, we put what's in absolute value symbols. X plus 3. And then our less than and negative 14. Write down the or. In place of ax plus b, put x plus 3, and then greater than positive 14. Now, x is not alone, so we have to solve each one of these separately. So subtract 3 from each side. So you have x, 3's cancel, is less than negative 17. In the other problem, subtract 3, the 3's cancel. You have x is greater than 11. And we got to put the word or in between. And now let's make our graph. Here's negative 17. Here's positive 11. Open dots on both. And the arrows go in opposite directions. That is it for today. Thank you very much for joining me.